At my nephew's birthday party, I said, "Can't wait for the big family dinner tomorrow." My cousin laughed. That was yesterday. Then my sister said, "Take the hint." So I finally did. My name is Eli. I'm 33 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the kind of person who remembers birthdays, shows up with a gift, and stays behind to help clean up, even when I wasn't the one who made the mess. That might sound like a small thing, but in my family, small things were usually the only way I knew how to prove I still belonged. My family never made belonging easy for me. I was not exactly the black sheep. That would have required them to notice me enough to reject me loudly. I was more like the invisible one, the person standing just outside the frame while everyone else smiled for the picture. I was never dramatic. I was never loud. I never had some explosive fight with anyone that could explain why things changed. There was no single moment where someone pointed at me and said, "You are not wanted here." Instead, it happened slowly, quietly, in 100 little ways that were easy to excuse if I wanted to keep lying to myself. Group chats would get made without me. Inside jokes would form around conversations I had never been invited into. Family photos would appear online, and somehow I would be missing from them even though I knew I had been there that day, standing off to the side, waiting for someone to call me in. For years, I gave everyone the benefit of the doubt. They forgot I told myself. It was not personal. Someone must have assumed someone else had told me. I held on to that excuse for much longer than I should have, because some part of me believed that if I kept showing up, kept being helpful, kept being kind, they would eventually look around and realize I was still there. The cruelest thing about being excluded quietly is that it gives everyone plausible deniability. Nobody has to admit you are unwanted. They just arrange things so you eventually stop expecting an invitation. Last month, I went to my nephew Liam's 7th birthday party. Liam is my sister's son, and he is one of the few people in the family who still lights up when he sees me. I brought him a Lego Star Wars set he had been begging for, and after he tore through the wrapping paper, I sat with him on the living room floor and helped him build the first half of it. For a while, it felt nice. It felt normal. I laughed with him, helped him find the tiny gray pieces, and listened while he explained which spaceship was faster and which character was secretly the coolest. After the party wound down and most of the other adults left, I stayed behind. I helped wash dishes while my sister scrolled through her phone and made half-hearted small talk. There was nothing tense in the air, nothing obvious. It felt calm enough that I let myself relax. Maybe I thought things were finally leveling out. Maybe I had been too sensitive. Maybe this was still my family after all. So when I said, "I can't wait for the big family dinner tomorrow, I'm really looking forward to catching up with everyone," I meant it sincerely. My cousin Tara froze with a bite of leftover cake halfway to her mouth. Then she laughed. Not a confused laugh, not a gentle one. A sharp, surprised laugh, like I had just said something ridiculous. "Wait," she said. "You don't know? That was yesterday." My stomach dropped so fast, I actually felt dizzy. I turned toward my aunt, who was standing across the kitchen, hoping more than anything that this was some bad joke. But she did not look confused. She looked uncomfortable. Then, without hesitation, she pulled out her phone. She had photos. There was the long table set up in my parents' backyard, fairy lights hanging over it, champagne glasses lined up neatly. Everyone dressed nicely, smiling under the warm summer lights. Extended family members I had not seen in years were there. There were toasts, speeches, kids running in the background, group shots with everyone pressed close together. It was not some casual backyard meal thrown together at the last second. It was the family dinner, the one my mother hosted every summer, the one that had always been treated like a reunion. My aunt kept swiping through the gallery as if she were showing me vacation pictures. "Oh, this one was right before dessert," she said. "That was when your mom gave her little speech about being surrounded by all her blessings." She slowed down when she said that last part. I think she realized too late that maybe I should not be hearing any of this. But by then, it was already too late. The moment was poisoned. My face felt hot. My mouth went dry. The kitchen suddenly felt much smaller than it had a minute earlier. Then my sister, who had barely said anything until that point, looked up from drawing a plate and muttered, "Maybe take the hint next time." Just like that. She did not shout it. She did not say it with obvious hatred. That somehow made it worse. She said it casually, almost tiredly, like I was the embarrassing one for still not understanding what everyone else already knew. I did not say anything. I did not even move at first. I just stood there for a few seconds, watching her wipe down a serving tray like she had not just stabbed me in the chest in front of everyone. The room felt airless. I put down the sponge, walked into the living room, picked up the envelope with Liam's birthday card and the extra gift card I had slipped inside as a surprise, and left. On the drive home, I could not stop hearing her words. Maybe take the hint next time. I replayed them over and over. Not just what she said, but how she said it. Not angry, not emotional, just final. Like this had been obvious for years, and I was the only one too pathetic to accept it. Like I was some clueless outsider who had ignored every sign. Like I was a burden for still believing I had a place at the table. I cried in my car. I am not proud of it, but I am not ashamed either. It was not only about missing the dinner, it was about finally seeing everything clearly. It was the unmistakable confirmation that I was not one of them anymore. At best, I had become a distant obligation. At worst, I had become a resource they tolerated when I was useful. That night, I could not sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking through years of little slights I had brushed off. The Christmas dinner they told me was just immediate family, only for them to post group photos with people I barely recognized. The group chats I only found out about because someone accidentally sent me a screenshot. The birthdays they forgot. The jokes I never understood because the funny part had happened in rooms I was not invited into. But here's the thing. I am not someone who looks for revenge. I am not naturally petty. I do not enjoy conflict, and I do not like hurting people just because they hurt me. What I wanted, what I needed, was to finally be done. No more hoping, no more showing up, no more handing out grace like candy and praying it would buy me a seat at a table where nobody wanted me sitting. That night, I started planning. Not revenge, at least not in the usual sense. Something more permanent, something they would never see coming, because they had trained themselves not to see me at all. The first step was financial. For the past few years, I have been doing well. I work in IT, and while I am not a millionaire, I have made smart investments. I got into property management, bought carefully, reinvested wisely, and built more than anyone in my family ever bothered to ask about. They did not know I owned 3 rental homes. They did not know I had been quietly helping my parents cover things like roof repairs and plumbing problems through anonymous grants set up under my LLC. I never needed credit for it. I never wanted a speech or a public thank you. I just wanted to support them because they were my parents. Or at least, I thought they were. A week after Liam's birthday party, my mother called me. She sounded frantic. The central air in her house had gone out during the first heat wave of the season, and the repair estimate was over $8,000. The guy you usually work with said he didn't get the usual maintenance retainer this year, she said, her voice shaking. Did something happen with the fund? I calmly told her. I had dissolved the grant program. At first, she sounded confused. I could hear her trying to process what that meant, trying to figure out how much I knew and how direct she needed to be. I did not explain. I'm sure you and everyone who was at the dinner can figure something out, I said. There was silence on the other end. I could almost hear her thoughts racing. I did not wait for her to respond. I ended the call politely. That same day, I called my lawyer. There were other things I had funded over the years. A college savings account for my niece, emergency dental work for my uncle, a part-time assistant my sister used to help keep her Etsy business running. I had receipts for all of it. Every transfer, every agreement, every clause. None of them knew I had tied those funds to cancellation terms. None of them knew those terms could be activated with a single signature. So, I signed. Letters went out. Accounts were frozen. Agreements were terminated. It took about 2 weeks for the ripple to hit. My inbox filled up with calls, messages, and missed FaceTimes. One text from my cousin simply said, "What is going on?" I did not answer. Then came the family group chat. Not the one they had excluded me from, the old one. The one I had created 5 years earlier when my grandfather died and everyone needed to coordinate funeral logistics. I still had admin rights. I opened it, changed the name to Maybe Take the Hint, and then removed every single member one by one. I did not send a speech. I did not explain myself. I did not argue. I just erased the room. But that was only the beginning, because there was still one thing I had not taken back. One thread still tethering me to them. The lake house. Technically, it was not fully mine. It had belonged to my grandparents, then passed down jointly to my mother and her sister, my Aunt Val. After Val passed away, her half went to my cousin Tara, the same cousin who had laughed when she realized I did not know about the family dinner. Years earlier, when my mother fell behind on some payments tied to the property, I quietly bought out her share. Legally, I owned 50%, but no one ever updated the family's mental scoreboard. In their minds, it was still Grandma's place. Everyone used it freely. Weekends, holidays, full summers. I let them do it for years. I never booked it for myself. I never once said no when someone wanted to use it. I even paid for the new dock last summer quietly, without taking any credit. But now, the lake house was a stage, and I had the script. I waited for Memorial Day weekend. That was when the whole family usually flooded in. It had been tradition for more than a decade. Barbecues, bonfires, the kids fishing off the pier while the adults got tipsy on cheap drinks and louder as the sun went down. I used to love those weekends. I used to look forward to them for months. But I had not been invited for the last 3 years. This time, I did not need an invitation. I just needed to show up. 3 days before the weekend, I filed paperwork to restrict shared access to my half of the property, using a little-known clause in the deed that allowed either owner to partition use if a conflict arose. My lawyer made sure it was airtight. I was not legally blocking them from using the house. I was requiring a co-owner agreement before anyone used it. Tara, of course, had not been paying attention to the legal mail. She was too used to me being nice, too used to me being Eli the quiet one, the helpful one, the person who absorbed the inconvenience so nobody else had to. Friday morning, I drove up early. I unlocked the house, parked my truck sideways in the driveway so nobody could pull in behind me, and waited. It did not take long. Around noon, 3 cars rolled up. My sister Tara, my mother, the kids, and the spouses all piled out, laughing and carrying bags. The laughter died when they saw me standing there. Tara stepped out first, her face tightening. "You're here?" she asked. I smiled. "It's Memorial Day. I thought I'd enjoy the lake." She walked right up to me with her arms crossed. "Well, we plan to stay for the weekend. I told your mom she could have the master." "That is going to be a problem," I said. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. The house is locked for co-owner review. You would have seen the notice if you opened your mail. She blinked. "What notice?" My sister jumped in immediately, already irritated. "Eli, don't be dramatic. We've been coming here forever. Just because you weren't invited to one dinner." I held up a hand. "It was not one dinner," I said. "And it was not about the dinner. It is about respect, something this family stopped giving me a long time ago." My mother finally approached, her voice soft in that careful way she used when she wanted to smooth things over without taking responsibility. "Eli, honey, we didn't mean to hurt you. Things just got busy. You know how it is." For 1 second, I almost softened. Almost. Then I remembered every time she had defended my sister's cruelty. Every time she laughed off my exclusion as a misunderstanding. Every time she asked me to be the bigger person because it was easier than asking anyone else to be decent. "I know exactly how it is," I said. "That is why I am here now. This house is not a shared vacation spot anymore. If you want access, we draft a new agreement. We split maintenance, we rotate usage, or we sell." Tara's voice rose. "You wouldn't dare. You would destroy a family tradition over what? Hurt feelings?" I looked straight at her. "No," I said. "You already destroyed the family part. I am just handling the paperwork." They tried everything after that. Yelling, pleading, guilt-tripping. My mother teared up. My sister called me selfish. Tara threatened to sue. None of it mattered. I had everything documented. The messages, the receipts, the clause in the deed, the years of silence I had been drowning in. And now, that silence was gone. In its place was clarity. Cold, clean, necessary clarity. Eventually, they left. Not quietly. not without a few final insults thrown over their shoulders. But I did not flinch. I stood on that porch until the cars disappeared down the gravel road. Then I went inside, opened a beer, and sat in the old rocking chair my grandmother used to love. That night, I lit a fire in the pit out back. I watched the embers rise into the dark, like sparks from some forgotten 4th of July. For the first time in a very long time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. But the final part came the next morning, because I was not done. There was still something I needed to send. And once they opened it, they would understand that the real consequences had not even started yet. The next morning, I woke to the sound of birds and nothing else. No kids screaming on the dock, no Bluetooth speakers blaring from the porch, no smell of my sister's always overcooked bacon. Just stillness. It was almost eerie how peaceful it was, and I liked it. I brewed myself a cup of coffee, walked barefoot down to the water, and watched the early mist curl off the lake like steam rising from a secret. I had a lot on my mind, but I was not sad. I was focused, resolved. The night before had drawn a line in the sand. Now it was time to make that line permanent. Before I left for the city, I stopped by the post office in town and handed over a thick manila envelope addressed to my family lawyer. Inside was the final piece of the puzzle, my formal decision to sell my half of the lake house. Not to just anyone. I had already vetted the buyers, a private couple from out of state, retirees, no kids, no drama. They wanted a quiet escape for the summer months. I had even offered them a slightly better deal if they agreed to one condition. They had to put up a gate. Nothing huge or ugly, just enough to clearly mark their half and legally prevent accidental visits from extended family members who had once treated the property like their personal vacation hub. But the envelope did not only include the sale contract, it also contained my exit letter, a single page folded on top of the documents and addressed to my entire family. I wrote it slowly over 2 nights. I did not want to be cruel, I wanted to be honest. Brutally, surgically honest. Part of it said this: to everyone who forgot me, you may not have realized it, but over the years, I became a ghost in this family. Not because I drifted away, but because you quietly pushed me there. With your exclusions, your silence, and your smug little smirks, when I still showed up believing I mattered. I was the helper, the giver, the quiet one, the extra person at the table. I never asked for much, just a chair and a little kindness. But your message has been clear. I am not family. I am a resource, a wallet. An afterthought, a punchline. So now I am taking the hint. You will not have to forget to invite me anymore. You will not have to roll your eyes when I show up, or whisper in the kitchen when I leave the room. I am done with all of it. I am not angry. I am not vengeful. I am simply done. This house was the last place where I still felt tethered to any kind of belonging, and now I have let it go. The buyers are kind people. They will take care of it. And do not worry, they will not tolerate uninvited guests, not even on holidays. Consider this letter your official notice. I am no longer available for guilt gaslighting or group chats. I wish you all well, truly. But from now on, my peace comes first. Eli. 3 days later, my phone would not stop buzzing. Missed calls, voicemails, text after text. The messages went from confused to panicked to furious in the span of a few hours. My sister, who had not said a kind word to me in more than a year, suddenly had plenty to say. You're breaking Mom's heart. You're acting like a child. You need to fix this before it gets worse. Tara sent a wall of text that started with, "Are you seriously selling the house?" and ended with, "You'll regret this." But the one that stayed with me came from my mother. It was only one sentence. "Why are you doing this to us?" I stared at that message for a long time. I almost replied. I typed a few different versions, some sharp, some gentle. One that simply said, "Because you let them." But I deleted all of them, because she already knew. A week later, the sale closed. The new owners took over. My family tried to block it, of course, but Tara had not kept up with her share of the maintenance taxes, and I had majority rights on the deed thanks to a little-known clause I had activated through my LLC. They could complain, threaten, and rage all they wanted, They could not stop it. Legally, financially, and emotionally, it was done. Summer came and went. They ended up renting a lake Airbnb 2 towns over. I saw the photos on my cousin's Instagram before I finally stopped looking. Different doc, same forced smiles, same energy of pretending nothing had changed. Except everything had changed. Because the next time they needed a favor, there was no Eli to call. No silent supporter to pick up the slack. No wallet with feelings, as they once called me behind my back on a hot mic during a group Zoom I was never supposed to hear. And while they scrambled to adjust, I started building something better. A life where I was not invisible. A life with friends who saw me, appreciated me, laughed with me, and never once made me beg for a seat at the table. It was not about revenge. It was about release. But I will not pretend there was not one more twist. 2 months after the house sale finalized, something interesting happened at work. My company launched a new mentorship initiative, a paid program where we invited applicants from across the region to train in IT and project management. It was designed for people looking to start over. Guess who applied? Tara. She did not realize the application would land directly on my desk. She definitely did not expect the little note I stapled to her rejection letter. 6 words. Maybe take the hint next time. The weeks after that were quieter than I expected. No more calls, no more texts. It was as if, after years of silent dismissals, the silence had finally become mutual. For once, I did not feel responsible for fixing it. I stopped checking their social media. I removed myself from the last remnants of family email threads. My phone stayed still, and my mind felt clearer than it had in years. But clarity does not mean peace arrives easily. There were nights when I lay awake, wondering if I had gone too far, wondering if I should have just kept being the quiet one, the dependable one, the one who bit his tongue to keep the fragile family illusion from shattering. That guilt was familiar. It was like a worn-out jacket I had carried for so long that wearing it almost felt comfortable, even when it hurt. Then I realized something. Guilt is a tool manipulators use when direct control stops working. It was hard to let it go, but I did. Because something stronger started growing in its place. Dignity, boundaries, a strange, welcome pride in knowing that for the first time, I had chosen myself over people who had proven again and again that they would not have chosen me. Work got better too. I got promoted. It turns out that when your mind is not constantly drained by toxic family dynamics, you have more room to thrive. I finally took the trip to Kyoto I had been putting off for years. I went alone. I spent 2 weeks wandering through bamboo forest and sipping matcha on quiet balconies. I did not post about it. I did not announce it to anyone. I simply lived it fully and quietly for myself. The final thread unraveled on Thanksgiving. Traditionally, Thanksgiving was hosted at my parents' house. It was always a big production. Stuffing made from my grandmother's old notes, my father's dry turkey. The usual arguments over who got to sit closest to the fireplace. And me, if I was invited, usually placed at the far end of the kids' table or in a folding chair by the door. No one had really noticed when I stopped coming a few years ago. But that year, things were different. That morning, someone knocked on my door. It was my father. I had not seen him in nearly a year. He looked older, thinner. His once jet-black hair had more gray than I remembered. He was holding a foil-covered dish and his eyes were bloodshot. Not from crying, I do not think. More like the long, slow wear that happens when life finally forces a man to sit with his choices. "Can I come in?" he asked. I did not answer. I just stepped aside. He came in, sat at my kitchen table, and placed the dish down. He did not offer it to me. He did not explain what it was. He just stared at the wood grain like it held answers he did not know how to say out loud. "Your mother is not doing well," he finally said. I nodded. That tends to happen when you lose control over people. He flinched. I do not know if it was because of the words themselves or because of how calmly I said them. "She is sorry, Eli," he said. "She says it every day." I poured him a glass of water and sat across from him. She had years to say it to my face. He looked like he wanted to argue, but then he only sighed. You were right to walk away, he said. I did not expect that. He continued. I told her we should have handled things differently. We should not have treated you like some outsider in your own bloodline. I tried to talk to your sister about it. She says you are being dramatic, that you are holding a grudge. I laughed softly, not because it was funny, because it was exactly what I expected. Of course she does. She is not doing well either, he said. Her Etsy shop folded. She is staying with us now. Your mother is under a lot of stress. Then he looked up at me, really looked at me. I am not here to guilt you, he said. I am here because I realize something. You were not the one who abandoned the family. We abandoned you. And we got used to the idea that you would never push back. The silence between us was heavy. Then he said, I read your letter. I raised an eyebrow. The one you sent to the lawyer, he said. He forwarded me a copy after the house was sold. I read it 3 times. I cried each time. I did not know what to say. You are a better man than I ever gave you credit for. His voice broke a little. I am sorry it took losing the house and losing you to see it. I believed him. I do not know why, but I did. There was something raw in his voice, not performative, not polished, just tired and honest. I stood up, walked to the fridge, and pulled out a small pumpkin pie I had picked up the day before. I sliced 2 pieces and placed one in front of him. No turkey, I said, but it has real whipped cream. He smiled a little. We did not talk much after that. We just ate. 2 men with too much history between them and no real map forward. It was not a full repair. It was not reconciliation. But it was something. A beginning, maybe. And I made it clear that if things were ever going to be different, it would be on my terms now. No more appeasement. No more being pushed into the back seat of my own story. A few days later, I got a handwritten letter from my mother in the mail. I read it twice. Then I put it away. I was not ready to respond. Maybe I never would be. Forgiveness does not arrive on command, and it certainly does not arrive without change. Weeks passed, and winter settled in around me with a kind of peace I had not known in years. Real peace. Earned peace. Then, just before Christmas, I got a text. Not from my sister, not from Tara, from Liam. It was a video message. Hey, Uncle Eli, he said, grinning into the camera. Mom says we're not supposed to talk to you, but I miss you. I told her that's dumb. I hope you're okay. I'm building another Lego spaceship. It has 3 engines this time. Behind him, I heard my sister's voice shout, Liam, give me that phone. The video cut off. I watched it again and again. My chest hurt, but not with anger, with sadness. Not for myself, but for him. For what he was being dragged into. For the cycle of exclusion and weaponized silence that he did not deserve to inherit. So I sent a video back. Hey, bud, I said, smiling as best I could. That sounds like an awesome spaceship. I bet it is the fastest one in the galaxy. I miss you too, and I am always here, no matter what anyone says. Okay, I never heard back, but that was okay, because I meant it. The revenge was never really about hurting them. It was about stopping the hurt they caused me. It was about putting up walls not to punish people, but to protect myself. And maybe, just maybe, someone in the next generation will not grow up feeling invisible. Maybe they will learn that it is okay to say no, to draw lines, to walk away from people who only love you when it is convenient. As for me, I'm good now. I bought a new place, smaller, cozier, with a real fireplace and a wide front porch. I host game nights with friends. I cook dinners that are not critiques in disguise. I laugh more, I sleep better, and when old photos pop up on my phone from family gatherings, where I stood off to the side, half smiling and half hoping I swipe past them, not because I am bitter, because I finally took the hint.